freaking first cut. Golly. What is going on YouTube? There is no PGA Tour event this week, but we're here. LIV Golf, more news there. Plus, we're going to go through our season superlatives. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll get started right now. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there, Kyle Porter. And the season never stops for us, Kyle. We roll on here with the First Cut. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I've got a hot take. No surprise, but I want to hear first about your poker extravaganza on what's today? On Monday night, Monday afternoon.
Yeah, it was fun. It was. I mean, it's weird, right? Like that game that I played in, which is being live streamed and everybody's mic'd up and you can see all the cards and all that stuff. It's like very much entertainment first, and then it basically turns into these, there's a bunch of big pots out there and everybody's drinking and having fun and all this stuff. But it was a blast to be a part of, for sure.
What was the background of it? Like, how did you end up in it? What was the reason for it?
It's an invite only game. They run these games 5 nights a week on Hustler Casino live stream. And I don't know. It's just like I started watching it a couple of months ago and I was like, oh, like that's interesting. And then I kind of know like a friend of a friend and the guy who runs it. So I was able to get myself a spot in the game. And as you know, so the game that I wanted to play was the Monday game. And there's only like 5 Mondays a year that I would be available to go to LA and play. And this one was one of them, because normally my golf stuff. So I made the trek down there yesterday and played for 5 hours.
Did you know anybody that you were playing with?
No, I met them all for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah. Now a lot of them play regularly in that game, but that was the first time I'd met anybody.
Did the stream of it get fewer viewers than Bedminster, the LIV Bedminster?
honestly, it's probably pretty close. I don't know what that says about LIV or about like the Hustler Casino live stream, but it's probably pretty close. They get like, I don't know, like 100,000 like live views or whatever. It's like pretty crazy.
That's more than LIV Bedminster, probably. Yeah. I wish I was talking about this in a chat with some guys today. Like, I wish we had real numbers on all this stuff. Even like, I don't know, the Nielsen ratings for our stuff or for NBC. You're like, I don't know what any of this means. Like, tell me how many people tuned in. Tell me how old they were. Tell me how long they watch. And it's just, I feel like it's almost like purposefully clouded. It's purposefully like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like opaque, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So okay. So let's run this. So, CBS or NBC, when they go out to sell sponsors, they are obviously saying this is how many people are watching and this is the demo. And here's what we think their disposable income is. Are they getting numbers from Nielsen or are their own internal numbers that they're able to track?
It's got to be third party. There's too much money at stake for them to provide their own numbers. But I guess I just like, okay, the Open Championship this is not even a real number. It got a 4 rating or whatever. Well, we're about to talk about this. Context is everything. Like, okay, what does that even like? What the most useful TV stuff is when they rank the top 100 shows of the year and the top 37 are NFL games, right? Or playoff games. You're like, okay, at least I have the context of knowing like what the most watched thing was, what the second most watched thing was, and so on and so forth. When you have these individual, and this goes back to the LIV being on YouTube, I don't have a problem with it being on YouTube. You and I, like, I think it's easy to make fun of. You and I think are of the generation, or at least adjacent to that. It's like all the same thing. You're watching all the, like it doesn't matter what platform it's on. I just want to know how many people are actually watching.
I consume a ton of stuff on YouTube, and my quote unquote cable is YouTube TV, right? Like I just stream it. It's all one thing.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Can I do my hot take before we get into LIV?
Yes.
Okay. I got an email today from the good folks at Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks very often.
I'll email to you.
Huh?
A personalized email to you?
No. It was a marketing, they probably have a 7 million, probably more than that, probably 70 million subscriber list. I usually get it on the road, like when I'm at events or whatever. I'll occasionally go for like a iced coffee when I'm at home. Not very often. I usually just make it at home. So their promotion today, Rick, was they have their pumpkin drinks back.
Of course.
Okay. It's August 30th. And they are promoting this. We're not even close. We're 3 weeks away from fall. We are like 7 weeks away from Texas fall because it's still like 98 degrees here. And I wrote about this, I think, actually, coincidentally, in Normal Sport last year. I went to the grocery store on like August 6th last year, and they had pumpkin spice Cheerios. Like either like this is like the FedEx Cup thing. Either make it like year long, or like make it actually seasonal and don't make it like 7 months out of the year.
Question. Are pumpkins actually seasonal?
I have no idea.
Right. Have we just associated pumpkins with Halloween, thus with fall, with autumn? But like, are pumpkins growing year round?
Well, I mean, is peppermint seasonal?
Again, that is a fabricated connection that we have between peppermint and December.
Well, I think the thing that bothers me is that it feels like they're trying to just squeeze every last dollar out of me because they keep introducing it earlier and earlier.
For sure. They have a ton of data that says like, if we just do this a week earlier every year, like people will buy it, and you'll get this huge surge at the start.
Yes. And you still make it limited. It's like 6 months.
Yeah.
So I'm just annoyed by it. I'm probably actually going to go get one later today, but it did work, but it's still annoying. Maybe it worked or maybe it's annoying because it worked.
I have another offer for you if you're interested. 20% off first cut merchandise for the rest of the year. That's our little fall special, our little marketing. We don't have 70 million subscribers, but I'm telling you here on the show. And there's a link in the description on both the audio and video versions. You can go get your the etched glasses are really nice. I've got a couple of stickers. I've seen the hats and the shirts out in the wild. If you're watching on YouTube and Jacob has the graphic handy, there it is. There's a QR code that you can scan, or you can use the code FIRSTCUT20 at checkout. I would like to see some of these in the fall, in the West Coast swing. So when I get to like Torrey and all those events on the West Coast swing, I want to see some First Cut merch. KP. I've seen some out there already.
In the wild.
Yeah, when I was in Wilmington, I saw multiple First Cut hats and shirts.
I need one of those glasses to drink my iced coffee out of.
There you go. Now we're cooking. We got to do LIV and we got to do our season superlatives. Let's do the LIV stuff. And it is now official. Cam Smith, Mark Leishman, Harold Varner III, Cameron Tringale, Honor Bon Lahiri, Joaquin Neiman signed with LIV and will play in Boston. This is not a surprise. I was talking to Jacob before we went hot. For as hard as it is to report on this stuff, the reporting's been pretty good on the guys that go to LIV, right? There haven't been any huge misses.
The Cam Young thing.
But he himself, we'll get to it. He himself was like, yeah, I was pretty torn, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah, we can talk about that in a minute. I think the reporting has been good. And I think especially so when you consider like how much it benefits LIV just to have everybody's name sort of out there, right? That's been talked about a lot. I think I saw Hank Haney said that people are going to try to tell you Cam Smith's not a big deal. It's like, who's arguing that like Cam Smith's, can you pull up the tweet, Jacob, or the quote? It's like, no, Cam Smith he won the Players in the Open. He's the #2 player in the world. Like who thinks Cam Smith's not good? I don't like nobody. I don't think.
There's that meme that's like, there's always someone on Twitter arguing with no one, saying stuff like, but I was told Steph Curry wasn't a good shooter.
Yeah. You're like,
situation we have going on.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. This represents, Rick, I went back and did the numbers. I got them wrong, and then I redid them. Of the last 26 major championships, 12 of those have been won by LIV golfers. So that dates back to the summer of 2016.
12 of 20?
The last 26 major championships, 12 of those majors have been won by LIV based golfers. So it's Cam, obviously. It's Phil from last year, which is crazy. DJ's won 2. Koepka's won 4. Reed, Sergio, Stenson, and Bryson. I think that's all 12. I might be missing 1 or 2 there, but that's a big deal. I was talking about that earlier today. Like, it's significant that they keep grabbing major winners, and it's not just guys. It's not like, I think this gets made into, oh, those guys won majors a long time ago. Kinda, but like, they've gotten a major winner from each of the last 6 years. Like, there's a major winner, at least one major winner from each of the last 6 or maybe 7 years is playing LIV golf, and that's not insignificant. And it's something that should concern the tour. But I think the other thing, and I want to talk to you about this specifically, Rick, is, yeah, there you go. I had it wrong. I said 12 of 24. I couldn't count to 26 apparently. So we're homeschooling our kids, which is going well. Like, does this, in your opinion, Rick, does it matter? Does it do anything for LIV Golf to get the number 2 player in the world? It's bad for the PGA Tour. I think we all can admit that, can say that. Mm-hmm. Does that necessarily mean that it's good for LIV Golf in terms of building a business and a league that they want to contend with the PGA Tour?
So that part, right? If you're looking to build a global tour, a worldwide business in which you can eventually sell the teams as franchises or whatever you want to call them, Cam Smith is a really important piece to that. And we've talked about Hideki Matsuyama being an important piece of that, who we'll talk about in just a second. But Cam Smith represents the best golfer from an entire continent that is generally underserved in the world of golf, and most certainly underserved by the PGA Tour. So, and Cam Smith had some quotes about this in Golf Digest, talking about potential LIV events coming to Australia. Like, if that to me is the biggest thing for Cam Smith. If I asked 100 random people on the street who won the Open Championship or who Cam Smith is, I don't think you get a lot of answers. But when you start building this to be a money-making endeavor, Cam Smith is a really important piece of that.
That's interesting. I said this on HQ. It does feel a little bit like you're getting this split between, we've got the American Tour, which is ironically led by a European, and we've got the Global Tour. And I don't love that for the PGA Tour. Think about how much fun going to Royal Melbourne was for the President's Cup. Now, that makes our job harder, and it's probably not like it. I think I have to have real questions about, like, what is the most lucrative thing? Like, what is the best business decision for something like the PGA Tour? Obviously, for LIV, going global when the PGA Tour has this sort of stronghold on the United States, that's an obvious, like, that's going to be in our best interest, I think, to do that. And in a perfect world, I want the tour to also, like, go to Ireland, to go to Spain, to go to, wherever, like South Africa, like all these places that you could play amazing golf courses and present your incredible product to the world. But I don't know if that's in their best business interest. And it certainly is not in our best interest, because it makes it a lot harder to cover. And so I think that's going to be interesting, because if those two continue to split like that, you could see, Rick, like, you could honestly see a tour that is the global tour and one that's the American tour. And that doesn't mean it would be like perfectly split where only Americans played on the PGA Tour, but it's sort of trending in that direction. And I think that's pretty fascinating. I didn't see that coming at the beginning of the year.
There is a lot of global opportunity in golf. There's a ton of it. It's a sport that's played basically everywhere, and the PGA Tour focuses a lot on North America in general. Do you are there other sports examples? Obviously, like there's the NBA, that's kind of like your North America or your United States league, but like there's like the Euro League, and then there's like I don't know if there's like a split where it's just two. It's this in America or this in North America, and the rest of the world is something else. Does that an example like that exist in any other sport?
This is not a good example because they're not the same thing, but I guess NASCAR and F1.
Interesting.
At least
popular. Like NASCAR is very much a American centric, very popular sport.
Yeah. And then I think you could argue like the MLS against the problem is there's like 50 other leagues. So it's like the MLS against everything else.
It's not bad. That's not bad. It's obviously not the same thing, but that's the idea of that is interesting. Like NASCAR is not going to go to Australia, or NASCAR is not going to go to Europe, right? Like that never happens, I assume.
Right. I mean, there's business. It's a horrible business decision, right? Yeah. Because I mean, I would think, I don't know. And then like for F1 to just land in America and say, we're going to do, 16 of our 18 events in the United States, that would be a bad business decision because you lose out on this global sort of market that you've been catering to. I think, the thing about golf, Rick, and this is the thing I wanted to kind of land on is I was thinking about Cam Smith, and hear me out. Like, I'm not saying Cam Smith is not important. He is. I'm not saying he's not good. He is. Like, I would be a moron to sit up here and say that he's not important and not good. But I wonder how many guys are important and matter outside of the context of the PGA Tour. Like, LIV is just so I don't know if this is a word, uncontextualized, non-contextualized, that it's like, I don't know. Like, I was thinking about how everything that when people talk about the NBA, when Zach Lowe and Brian Russillo and Bill Simmons and all these guys talk about the NBA or the NFL, every single thing that they talk about, from the draft to free agency to preseason to everything, obviously every week, centers around, or it's contextualized by winning the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl, right? Like, everything is like you're operating like through the prism of looking at those two of that one thing in that individual sport. How does this affect the NBA Finals? How does that affect the NBA Finals? You don't always say it like that, but that's what everybody knows, like that's what you're meaning. And when LIV exists outside the context of the four major championships, so the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals or the World Series of golf, not to be confused with the actual World Series of golf, but when LIV exists outside of that, I just don't know if any of these guys, even somebody like a Cam Smith, even somebody like let's say JT had gone to LIV today. I don't know if that matters because like there's just no now, I will say when you start adding more and more stars and they start beating each other, that provides a little bit of context. But under this like weird, not in the ecosystem of the golf majors, that lack of context, it just almost buries guys on that tour into perpetuity until they're able to, if they get OWGR points or whatever, until they're able to gain that context. You might disagree with that. I'm curious about your thoughts.
I would almost take it even further because I agree with you, right? When you remove like Bryson from the contextualized ecosystem that we know, it's hard to figure out what Bryson is. I'd say it goes even further. Like Cameron Tringale is a perfect example of this, right? Cameron Tringale is the guy who has won more money than anybody on the PGA Tour without a victory. If he were to win on the PGA Tour, it would be like, okay, I get this. He just had this, 400 event run and this strife and this challenge, and he finally overcomes it and he wins, and he's now got one official PGA Tour win. If he goes and wins this week in Boston on LIV, how is he gonna feel about that? How am I gonna feel about that? How is golf going to feel about that when he couldn't get the job done on the PGA Tour? And we might look back in 10 years and be like, oh, remember when Tringali won the 100th LIV of it? Like, that was an amazing victory, but that doesn't exist now.
Yeah. And to LIV's credit, it's so hard to start something up and create context and history right away. History is part of the context. So I don't necessarily, it's not like, it's not even necessarily a knock against them. It's just sort of the reality of the situation. And honestly, Rick, like, if we're being critical here, I think the PGA Tour does a bad job of contextualizing its events throughout the year. Now, I think you're seeing a better job of that with the elevated stuff. I think you could see, I know the guys over at the Fried Egg, like Will Knights and some of those guys, have written a lot about the FedEx Cup, and like, what does that mean? Sometimes, I mean, we talked about this on here. It's like, when you allow 125 guys into the playoffs, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if does this make the regular season unimportant? Does it make it just, like, I don't think they've done a good job of contextualizing what their sort of league is outside of something like, you know, the Players Championship, and they're starting to do that more. I would love to see the FedEx Cup playoffs and a season-long champion, or whatever, however you want to say that, kind of follows suit. And I hope that they start to do a better job of that, because I don't think it's, I mean, they have history to lean on, which is a lot of context, but I don't think they've done a great job of contextualizing kind of the present day. And man, they sometimes, like, I think they sometimes ignore the majors, because it's like, oh, well, this is the PGA Tour. And it's like, well, no, the majors are part of your context. Like, this guy went, and they've done it more. Like, you finish top 2 in the John Deere, you get into the Open. Like, that is good context. Like, that makes me care about who's in 4th place at the John Deere, because it affects the Open Championship the next week. So I don't know, just more of that stuff I think is helpful for leagues like this.
Joaquin Niemann seemingly had a very difficult decision. The reports, if correct, he went to Boston unsigned, which is probably why the delay in announcing the field earlier this week. But Niemann is part of that agency. I believe it's GSE, which has been a pipeline to LIV. Almost every single one of those guys. And I think Mito Pereira also represented. He's been reported going to LIV. He's not playing in Boston. He's posted things about his excitement of the President's Cup. So maybe this is if factual, a post-President's Cup defection from Mito Pereira, but he's not on the list just yet.
Yeah, the Niemann thing, we can save the Mito thing, because I mean, who knows, right? Like, I don't know how that's going to go. But if you're, okay, how about this? If you're the Tour, would you rather have Joaquin Niemann for the next 20 or Cam Smith for the next 10 years?
Yeah. I think Cam Smith for 10.
Really?
Yeah, I just think that, so 20, both of them are so long, right? I mean, imagine what we felt about Ricky Fowler 5 years ago compared to what we feel about Ricky Fowler right now. Think about all these guys that like the windows are just so small, and you're going to get so many new guys. Like, I don't even know what Joaquin Niemann is going to be in 2 years, let alone 18. And I think Cam Smith is more important globally than Joaquin Niemann is.
That's probably fair. I think yeah, he is better. I think that there are also more Australians that could fill that void, which I don't know. Again, like, if you're the PGA Tour, this is probably a really stupid question. And people will probably get on me about it, but if you're the Tour, do you need Australia as a market? I mean, like, what
you're in Australia?
How many people live in Australia? It's like, I think it's small, like 20 million.
25.
Okay. So like, well, what is, I don't know. That's part of their global deal with Discovery, right? With Golf TV, is that the tour gets shown in those markets, right? I think that's right.
I don't know anything about that. I trust you on that. I don't know.
So the media rights in America, in the United States, are NBC, CBS, ESPN,
Right.
and yeah, no longer TNT. Globally, it's, and you can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, producer Jacob, but I believe it's through Discovery, which is the Golf TV deal, which I think goes out to different countries and continents like Australia, and that's how they view the PGA Tour. Is that right, producer Jacob?
Yes.
Where does Sky Sports come into all this?
I believe that the Discovery / Golf TV deal, I believe that's just all. I want to think that's like the digital rights.
Oh, okay.
The digital global rights. So that would essentially be like your streaming options would be like,
gotcha.
You could pay to do that. I believe that's a cord cutting option, like, in place of, if you're somewhere in Europe outside the UK, you would be able to pay the Golf TV as almost like a separate standalone subscription to get PGA Tour golf. Again, I could be wrong there. I also don't know how contracts work. But I believe that's my understanding. It's sort of the blanket, on top of the entire globe.
So if somebody in the chat actually lives in Australia, which I don't know if that's happening right now, but will you tell us like how you watch the PGA Tour? I would really be interested by that.
I mean, it could be Fox. Fox is a big sports provider down there since that's where that originated from.
I don't know if the answer to your question, Kyle, is like, yes, the PGA Tour needs Australia, but I think when you start boxing out regions or cultures or whatever, that's a slippery slope, right? And it's like, and then you've got like zero leads in that area, right? Like if you ever wanted to do any, like, I don't know, I just feel like that's a dangerous game to play, to be like, we're just out on Australia.
Somebody said Australia is Fox. So clearly, I don't know how TV contracts work. I think producer Jacob is right, though. The digital stuff is Discovery and Golf TV. But I mean, and that's sort of what LIV is exploiting, right?
Yeah.
Fox is, so this guy says Fox is Australia and Eurosport covers most of Asia, and then Sky Sports would be Europe.
And and that would be the context of the TV deals.
Yeah,
I think that the Golf TV is more akin to like the PGA Tour Live coverage that we get in the United States.
That makes sense. I forgot where I was on this. Oh, this is what LIV is exploiting. Is they're saying like, hey, if you're not going to go to Australia and you're not going to, and again, like, I don't know that it benefits the PGA Tour to do so, then we're gonna exploit that, and that's fine. Like that's great. If LIV wants to do that, I think a big part of the tour's problem is like, wait a second, like you're infringing upon our territory in the United States, and that's why we're not releasing our guys to play. And I mean, that's one of the reasons we're not releasing our guys to play, is because it dilutes our product, and it makes it less attractive to TV networks to purchase the media rights. So I don't know. My other question for you, Rick, is I was thinking about this. I have come around on thinking that, like, do I think Saudi Arabia is doing like bad stuff? For sure. Do I think the Saudi Arabian government is essentially funding this league? I do. But even knowing those things, I also think that they want this product to make money and to work, right? I don't think they're super interested. Everybody talks about Uber and all the places that they're invested. They're not super interested in just like throwing their money away into forever, right? I don't think. I think initially it felt like that because it was like sports washing. And I definitely think that is a thing. but I also don't think it's so much of a thing that they're like, yeah, we'll just like pour $10 billion into doing this and like roll Graham McDowell out to talk about human rights. Like I don't think that's like what they're interested in.
Well, I'm not always sure how much of a reliable narrator Greg Norman is, but that was one of the things he said from the start is like, this is not a blank check. I know it might feel like that, but this is like, this is going to have to make money at some point, which I tend to agree with. But again, there's a lot of different ways to make money.
For sure. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think that when you sign Cameron Tringali for, what did coach say the Harold Varner number was on Sunday?
I said, I'm not going to say any numbers, but let's just say it's about 4 years and $12.5 million. I'm like, coach, you just said all the numbers. That's
so is that 12.5 a year or total?
He was saying it's spread out over, 12.5 a year, 12.5 a year. Yes.
So that is just like, I get being a startup and trying to burn money to make it later. I just don't know if like getting middle of the road PGA Tour players is like the way to do that. Right? Because like is that like, are you going to pay Harold Varner the third $12 million? Is Harold Varner the third even bringing in $12,000 to your business?
Hey, can I offer you context to Harold Varner III before we start slandering my native charlatan? He's got 2 professional wins, one in Saudi Arabia, one in Australia.
Yeah, that's true.
Is he more popular globally than he is here?
No, I think he's pretty popular. I just don't know like what it does for your, like, I mean, we've talked about this too. The LIV's big thing is like they have to get some sort of media rights, like some sort of contract, right? Because their whole model is predicated on, hey, our teams are going to be super valuable because they're going to be sort of folded into this individual sport. And when they become super valuable because they're shown on TV, a bunch of rich people are going to want to buy them. Well, last time I checked, rich people don't like to buy things that lose them a ton of money. And unless you can find 10 or 12 or whatever, however many people, rich people, to buy a team just because they want to hang out with like Phil and DJ, then I just like, I don't know like what the path is to getting a TV. Is signing Harold Varner and Cameron Tringali the path to a TV deal and media rights? I don't know. Maybe it is.
I would doubt that those guys are, but I think there's a lot, right? You've got to start building a roster to make the case for OWGR. You've got to start building a roster of people that like are not named. Let's see who got the boot this week. Travis Smith.
But my point is that Travis Smith and Harold Varner are kind of replaceable as it relates to getting like media rights. Like, because what I'm saying is like, who cares about Harold Varner? Like it's like you need the Brysons and the DJs and the Phils and all those guys.
Yeah, but you also can't have the Travis Smiths.
Why?
Because it's a joke. When you have 5 top 20 players and 40 guys in the thousands, it's a joke.
And maybe that's the thing. Maybe they can't, like, in all seriousness, go to a network and show them the roster of players, and the network's like, wait, what? You know, maybe that's the whole point. But I think from a fan perspective, I'm like, those guys are like, and this is sort of how I feel for the PGA Tour. If you bring a Korn Ferry guy up, I mean, think about how we feel about Cam Young now compared to this time last year. If you bring a Korn Ferry guy up and replace Harold Varner or Cam Tringali or Mark Leishman with a Korn Ferry guy, and they're successful or moderately successful in 3 years, you will have replaced like all the value that those guys bring to your organization.
Do we have any? I agree with you. Do we have any idea how much LIV is in for right now with like all the reported? I mean, because you start adding all of this up. And this is why they're getting to the point where they're like, oh, our franchises are going to be they're going to be worth $1 billion or $2 billion. So, well, yeah, because like you're already in for, it's like when a startup gets a funding round of $100 million and now their valuation's $1 billion. It's like, well, yeah, because you're like going to burn through all of this and then some. Like it feels like they must be in for a ton already.
Yeah. And I do think, like, listen, if it's a big bet to make and big bets can pay off big, I just am not really, I just don't know that I see it. I think think about Netflix, like when they were burning whatever, $20 billion a year. I don't know what the numbers are. I have no idea what the numbers are. And you're like, okay, well, that's a ton of money, but I can actually see, I can literally see their subscriber base growing every month. And I understand the math of like how this gets to a certain place, right? And the LIV people would argue that that's going to be true of their league. I just don't know that I see the math working out, because it seems like they've sort of overestimated the value of both teams and how much a golf league can generate in revenue per year, unless they think the PGA Tour is just doing an atrocious job of generating revenue, which I think there's an argument there.
Yeah. I'd argue that's fairly true.
I think there is an argument there that they could do a much better job of generating revenue. But the chicken or the egg thing of like, well, you have to start generating a bunch of revenue before you can start selling teams to billionaires, because they're not going to buy a team in a league that doesn't make any money, right? Like that's the part that is, I think that part's going to be really interesting, because that's what they're betting on, is this team valuation. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. I actually think the PGA Tour should do something like that, because I think it brings in a ton of money. I just don't know that it's going to work out the way that LIV thinks it is.
We have to move on here shortly, but there are also a lot of there's an infinite number of quid pro quo opportunities, right? I mean, it's, hey, buy a team. Let's do an arms deal. Let's do an oil deal. Let's do, like, you don't have to make money on golf, and LIV and PIF have endless opportunities for that.
Yeah, it's a good point. And that's terrifying. I had not even thought about like that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's just a million other ways to do it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And I think, yeah, so your balance sheet might be actually like 7 different balance sheets that you're looking at, and not just the LIV Golf League.
Right. No Hideki, no Cam Young. Cam Young was obviously enticed by it, but this has been, well, we've known this for a couple days. He said, I'm looking for the exact quote. I don't see it here, but it was something like, not at this time in my career, right? It was like, maybe at a different point in my career, I find some of this stuff interesting, but not for me right now.
Yeah, that was, so where did is that quote in here?
No.
It sounded like he was saying that if it had come along 2 years earlier or 4 years later, he would have done it, right? That's the way he made it sound. I don't know if that's what he was trying to say. Somebody on Twitter brought this up, but does that mean that if he had like major exemptions, like if he had won, like what if he went on the Open, right? Like Cam did. Or if he was a Korn Ferry player that didn't know if he was going to get to the tour. Like he almost acted like he was in the worst position of anybody to take the offer.
He's probably right. And that's what I was going to bring up with, you mentioned the major championship stat at the beginning. That is a mutually positive relationship for past major winners to sign LIV deals. LIV gets the credibility of saying 12 of the last 26 majors have been won by our guys. And the major championship winner gets a huge payday and much more likely that he's going to be able to play in majors moving forward. They are the perfect target.
They are. And that's why I'm a little surprised. I was going through the major list today. I'm a little surprised that guys like Jimmy Walker, Danny Willett, Justin Rose. There was a report that Rose got kind of close to it, but never signed. Francesco Molinari. I'm just naming like one-time major winners that have been recent. It's surprising that, and they've knocked off a bunch of them, right? They've got the Stenson and the DJ and the Bryson and all those. But I think you're right. That is the sort of the perfect marriage between player and league for LIV Golf. I think the other thing is like they've really leveraged some of the team stuff, right? They grab Stenson away from the Ryder Cup. They take Cam, Neiman, Leishman, Lahiri, two of those guys would have been on the team. I think Leishman would have been on it too. Lahiri was kind of on the fringe, but so you're basically you're able in your marketing to say like, hey, these guys care more about LIV than they care about your President's Cup and your Ryder Cup, which is sucks for the President's Cup and Ryder Cup, and I think that has been obviously one of their plays as well.
Without Hideki, it appears like the entire Japanese team got the boot. So a bunch of guys who are so like, what happens to Henny Duplessis, right? Who finished
my guy? He finished second.
Finished second in the first LIV event. Now in the fourth LIV event, he's out.
Gone.
Justin Harding out. I mentioned Travis Smith, a handful of others. So, I mean, I don't know what all their deals look like, but what happens to these guys now? The bottom of the roster.
I mean, it's off to the Asian tour, right?
I mean, I hope they got a lump sum.
Well, I think for them, like, what was the downside of doing that, right? Like, were those guys, I mean, you could argue Harding was a tour guy.
Yeah, that's maybe the only one.
But like the down, like, I think those guys are kind of looking at it like, am I going to, what about Tanahara? How old is he?
I'll look.
I just don't know that the downside was that great when, you're like, what's your career going to be anyway? Right now, I think I saw that Harding is playing in the European Tour event this week.
Okay, so where do we stand on that? What's the alliance on this? They're going to be allowed to play DP World Tour events?
Well, I don't think DP World Tour has an option. I think the Scottish Open thing was a big brouhaha because the PGA Tour it's a co-sanctioned event, and I think the DP World Tour is like, what do you want us to do? We don't have fields anyway, right? Like I don't I can't imagine them banning players from playing both.
Any final LIV thoughts before we move on?
I think Hideki's future is really interesting. We didn't talk about that. I mean, we have talked about that. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, it actually, like, man, I was thinking about this. I've been very anti-LIV for a bunch of different reasons. I think it sucks for the fan who's trying to follow like all the best players in one league. I think a lot of the Saudi Arabia stuff is not good. If you're Hideki, I think it makes a lot of sense. You've won the Masters. They're not going to ban you from Augusta, right? You're going to get paid for whatever you want. You're going to get to play globally, maybe more. And I don't know maybe Hideki likes playing in the United States. Maybe he wants to be here and play his golf here. But I do think for guys like that, I think there's part of this that makes sense. And, I've said some stuff on Twitter about how the like LIV has done a lot of like they've done a good job this year. If their goal is to like sort of, gather momentum and become the second best league in the world, they've accomplished that. And I got messages, Rick, that were like, how much is MBS paying you? How much are you on the payroll? And I'm like, have you been paying attention at all? Because I've gotten it from the other side for the last 3 months. And so I think people have such a hard time when you say like, hey, the PGA Tour, there's a lot of good things. There's some bad things that we should criticize that they don't do. We talked about it with contextualization, that they don't do that well. With LIV, there's, to me, a lot of bad, not great stuff. there's a lot of good. And we've talked, and we'll talk more about what the good is in terms of providing a product that fans are interested in and, like sustaining a business into the future. I don't know if it's going to work, but they've presented a lot of things that I wish the PGA Tour would adopt. So it's gray. Like a lot of it is gray. Some of it's black and white, but a lot of it is gray.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said. All right, we'll put a pin in it on LIV. We've got to get to our season superlatives. However, we've been bribing the audience, Kyle, with 5-star reviews, and they give us, and then we'll read it online. So I don't know who wrote this, but okay. So there's Jacob showing it now. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Write us a question, a comment, a concern, anything you want. We'll chat about it on the show. This one just says, "Hey Rick, what'd you eat for dinner last night?" Which is not all that exciting. I was traveling. It was a Chipotle night for me. Although I eat Chipotle probably, like I probably eat Chipotle like 250 times a year.
No,
like it's outrageous how much I eat
250. That's like 5 times a week. Are we frozen?
I don't know. Was it me or you who was frozen? I missed whatever you said.
Oh, I said that's like 5 times a week.
Yeah. I eat it for lunch like a lot. Okay. Here's the go-to.
It's great. We're not promoting Chipotle, by the way.
We will though, if we need to. Sofritas burrito, chips and guac. It's pretty straightforward. I'm a big gut health fan.
What was the first thing?
Sofritas. It's a plant-based meat that Chipotle has.
Okay.
I think it's actually like soy or something.
Okay.
It's good. Tastes like.
And then chips and guac.
Chips and guac. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't do spice though.
Really? No, like what about cheese?
Cheese in general, I don't do well with.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I eat it when I'm on the road all the time. If I was, I mean, I think if I was like single or just was kind of doing my own thing, I would probably eat Chipotle for lunch every day.
When I'm not eating Chipotle, Kyle, you know what I am eating? Butcher Box.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because they deliver it right to my door. I can either determine exactly what I want, or they can just send me new stuff. I signed on and got free bacon in every box a while back. I'm just rocking and rolling, and it takes the guesswork out of finding high quality meat and seafood that you can trust. Trusting seafood, Kyle. I'm always concerned about trusting seafood, but not when it comes to Butcher Box.
Yeah, I am too. So the Butcher Box that I've had, I think I've said this on here. I'm not a great cook. I'm not terrible, but I'm not great. And my neighbor, who lives 2 doors down, loves to cook meat. So basically, when I get a box, I just take it all to him, and he just invites us over for cookouts all the time. So everybody wins. It's great.
Everybody wins, and you can win too, because how about this offer? Take those chicken breasts off your grocery list, because Butcher Box is offering our listeners an incredible deal that they've never been offered before. This one, I think this is better than the bacon deal. Free chicken for a year. Free chicken for a year. Get 2 pounds of free-range organic chicken breasts for free in every order when you sign up at butcherbox.com/firstcut and use the code firstcut. Claim this deal at butcherbox.com/firstcut. Use code firstcut. Go get your butcher on. All right. KP. Season superlatives. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories. Some of them are designed to be fairly subjective, so we can kind of go in a couple of different routes, and the fans can also get involved. So the first superlative that we are going to go through, best viral moment, it's in the chat right now. So you can vote on what those are. But what do you think about our categories for today?
They're great. I think that I struggled with biggest winner and loser. Because technically Scotty Scheffler was the biggest winner. He won the most events, but that's not necessarily what this question means. So do we want to start with viral moment, or should we start with winner and loser?
Well, let's start with viral moment, because that's the one that is in the chat right now. So And it's pretty split. It's 54-46 right now. So my vote for best viral moment comes from the big cat. It's a 3-second swing video he posted on the range that got everybody all fired up. I mean, that was like the first time we'd seen really anything from Tiger. It was in November, and the rest is history. Played the PNC Championship, played 3 major championships.
Yeah, it feels like it was 15 years ago when he released that video. It was great. It was kind of the ending to normal sport last year was that video, which is where we'll kind of pick it up again this year, I guess. But it was, people were freaking out. I mean, we were freaking out. I think, yeah, it was great. I struggled because I didn't go with, if I was taking this like super seriously and like giving like a real answer, I would have gone with Tiger at the Open, walking over the bridge, right? Like that was insane. I think that was the golf moment of the year. But I went with Harry Higgs and Joel Damon taking their shirts off at the Phoenix Open. The whole Phoenix Open,
also very good.
the Phoenix Open was like a top 3 non-major this year. I don't know if that's true, but in my head, I mean, you've got Sam Ryder and then making the 1, and then everybody throws cups on the green, and then Higgs and Damon take their shirts off. You got Brooks in contention. You got Scheffler beating Cantlay in a playoff. You got Sahith in contention, nearly winning his first event. Phoenix Open was awesome. It was really good.
Yeah, and it's usually easy to be a prisoner of the moment for these superlatives. So I'm glad that we found a moment that happened in November and a moment that happened in February?
Yeah, for sure.
Which is nice. All right, the chat says, let's see, 56-44. They're going with Tiger's swing, the big cat.
Yeah.
All right, biggest winner. Again, intentionally vague, right? Because the right answer is Scottie Scheffler by all accounts. That's not where we ended up. We've kind of narrowed this list down a little bit. Let's talk through it.
What did producer Jacob put in the poll on YouTube?
He hasn't posted it yet.
Okay, so I'm gonna take Scheffler. I had 3 names on here. I'm gonna take Scheffler out because we'll talk about him later. I think for me, it's either Matt Fitzpatrick or Rory. And I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. I think on the course, Fitzpatrick changed my mind the most about who he is as a player out of anybody. Like I think the most differently about him than anybody else of anybody in the world than I did 12 months ago. I mean, they showed this graphic, Rick, on Sunday. I think it was on 16. The 3 longest drives of the day were Scheffler, Rory, and Fitzpatrick. And it wasn't even that surprising, right? Because of how Fitzpatrick has sort of transformed himself as a player. So I think Rory, obviously off the course, was a massive winner. I think a lot of people gained. I think some people are like very anti-Rory because of what he did this year, which I think is fine. But I think other people kind of saw the person that he, I think, tries to be. And that's not, necessarily always true. But and I wrote about this on Sunday night on CBSSports.com, but like to have somebody that is good enough that his voice matters and bold enough to use it is a rarity in sports. And I thought that was pretty cool from Rory this year. So I would say Fitzpatrick on the course and Rory off of it.
Does Rory feel like a winner? And maybe if I asked this question a week ago before he won the FedEx Cup, it might be a different answer. But I think on the golf course, he probably wished he had a better year. And when you're just trying to defend the PGA Tour, like, does he feel like mission accomplished, big win, I've had a great year? Do you think he feels that way?
Not as much as people would think.
Yeah, I
would say he would trade everything this year for another spot at the Masters, for jumping up a spot at the Masters, probably for the Open too. But I do think there's a sense of satisfaction when you've done something that I think it's different than, like, let's say he wins the Honda and the API and Match Play and Travelers. Let's say those were just his 4 wins this year, and none of the live stuff happened. I think this whole year was more meaningful and satisfactory for him because he felt like he was like sort of mattering in golf history. Like, when you get in that echelon, the reason guys care about majors is because it affects golf history. And Tiger cares a ton about golf history. I think Rory does. He nerds out on that stuff a lot, probably more than people think. And so to affect golf history and the future of the sport, I think is satisfactory, even if maybe he didn't win, not as much as he would have liked, but not the tournaments that he would have chosen.
I opted for either Xander or Tony Finau, and I think I'd go with Finau, but both of them are kind of the same idea here, right? Guys that needed wins getting wins, and Finau to rack up a couple and get to go into next season now 3 or 4 times a winner, not having to hear about how often he's finishing in the top 10. Xander, same thing, goes out, wins a couple of events. Like, I think those guys knock a chip off their shoulder a little bit, obviously get the victories. I think Finau's like one of the biggest winners of the year.
Yeah, I think so too. How come no Cam for you?
Which one? Smith?
Smith, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I just think that there are other things that are bigger, right? Like, okay, so we had other major champions. We had guys that did more for the game off the course. And then I also think it's kind of a situation where I think so highly of Cam Smith that it was going to be hard to exceed that. So I think like the biggest winner is like someone who kind of exceeded what your baseline expectation was. And I was pretty fond of Cam Smith.
Yeah, I think the reason I didn't have him on, I actually forgot to put him on here, but the part of the reason is I put him on Player of the Year. I want to talk about him there. Yeah, some people in the chat were just wondering about that. Okay, biggest loser?
Yeah, biggest winner in the fans department. So the fans voted on this in the chat. They went 42% with Rory McIlroy as the biggest winner of the year.
Did we have all 3 of those up there? Fitzpatrick.
They had Rory, Fitzpatrick, Xander, Finau.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Losers.
Mine's Brooks.
Loser.
Yeah, mine's Brooks Koepka. Can you remember a Brooks Koepka moment this year?
Without looking, how many events did Brooks Koepka play this year?
Oh, I've got it up. So I think it's like 18 or something. Oh, let me read you his top finishes.
Oh, okay.
He finished T3 at Phoenix. Really good. Mm-hmm. T5 at Match Play. Forgot about that.
That's the only thing I remember is that he made a run at Match Play.
T9 at the Hero World Challenge. Doesn't count. Should count. Doesn't. T11 at LIV Bedminster. That was his 4th best finish of the year. T12 at Valspar. T16 at Honda, and T16 at LIV Portland. Those are all the top 25s. Missed the cut at the Players, missed the cut at the Open, missed the cut at the Masters, 55th at the U.S. Open, 55th at the PGA Championship.
It's very bad for Brooks.
And then still acts like he's the number 1 guy in the world when he does his press conference at LIV. It was not a, and all of this after he gave the interview to GQ last year right before the Ryder Cup where he said he was going to win 1 major a year and overtake Tiger and Jack. You remember that?
Yeah. Speaking of things that feel like a long time ago.
1 a year. It was disappointing. I think Brooks is a great champion. I think that he's underrated as a champion. You win 4 majors in this era. That's sick. Like, that is so good. And I'm disappointed. And some of this is not his fault. I think there's some injury stuff and all that lingering. And, but I just thought it was a disappointing year. I thought he came out, he might've made more money this year than ever, but I think he came out, with me thinking about his legacy differently than maybe more differently than anybody else.
Yeah, it was not a good year for Brooks. It was like he was a bully to Bryson. Then he left with Bryson to go to LIV, but he gave like how dare you talk about that at the US Open? It was the whole thing was bad. I have two options here. We've talked about this. I think the fans are the biggest losers of the year. We lose. We lose on this. Now we've got 2 leagues, and whether you think the competition in LIV is good or not, there are names that we've been used to seeing here. You mentioned earlier, 12 of the last 26 majors. Those champions no longer reside on the PGA Tour. We've got competition. We've got, for the first time in a long time, political discourse injected into our golf, which is not something we've always had to discover or talk about. We lose on this. And we're probably going to lose moving forward when Jay Monahan says, I've got to squeeze everything out of our sponsors moving forward. Yeah. I envision a lot of playing through. I envision a lot of whatever, right? Like, we lose on this.
How good was that, the commercial-free Tour Championship back 9?
Did they announce they were doing that?
They announced it during the broadcast. I don't know if they announced it beforehand.
Because I was like, I have to pee so bad, but I haven't had an opportunity. And that's when I realized, I was like, they have not gone to commercial in 2.5 hours. It was magnificent.
I think that one of the things that you're talking about it was magnificent. One of the things you're talking about with the fans is like, I think people have said like, well, why do you guys care? There's more golf and there's more leagues and like, that's great. And I think there is some truth to that. I've legitimately enjoyed parts of the LIV events that I've watched. But you take like, it cheapens all of it, right? When you don't have a unified top league, to me, and you could make the soccer argument counter to this, but it cheapens, like if Rory wins the Players, or let's say Jordan Spieth wins the Players next year, you can look back and say, well, he didn't beat Brooks, he didn't beat DJ, he didn't beat Bryson, he didn't beat all these guys, and it makes everybody does lose, right? Like everybody loses out on what this thing could be. And has LIV changed? Has the presence of LIV changed the PGA Tour for the better? I think it has, but that doesn't necessarily mean the future of golf is what it could have been if LIV did not exist. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it does. It does. My honorable mention was Jon Rahm, who I know he won this year, but when you enter the year as the number 1 player in the world, when you are the betting favorite, basically every single time you tee it up, when you have one of the greatest driving seasons ever compiled and your lone victory was the Mexico Open, that's like, he's going to feel pretty damn disappointed about this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Best tournament. Oh, by the way, biggest loser, the winning vote for the fans, 49%, Brooks Koepka. That's your biggest loser from the chat.
Yeah.
Best tournament. There he is. Kyle, can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay. Best tournament. We have each chosen a major. Yours was the 150th edition of the Open Championship.
Yeah. Part of it is because it was at St. Andrews. It was, I thought Rory leading for the first 3 days was really compelling. And then Cam Smith 64 was unbelievable. It wasn't necessarily a great, I think your tournament had a better sort of 1-2 finish. The Open was a little weird because everybody there was rooting for Rory and kind of disappointed that this guy that they thought was going to LIV and did go to LIV eventually won. But I just, for me, my first experience at St. Andrews and seeing all that and getting to write Rory and Tiger and Cam and everything that happened there, that was a pretty easy number 1 for me.
Yeah, they were all special, and the Open was obvious. I mean, I think these are 1 and 2. I have the U.S. Open, you have the Open Championship. The U.S. Open was I mean, the leaderboard was incredible, right? I mean, it came down to literally like Zalatoris has a putt on the 18th green. Like it comes down to the final moment to push that thing to a playoff. But here was the leaderboard. Here was the top 5 at the US Open. It was Fitzy getting his first, Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris, 1 shot back, Hideki, Morikawa, Rory. Like,
dude, I forgot Hideki. Didn't Hideki shoot like 65 on Sunday? That was crazy.
And Fitzpatrick, you know, we'll probably talk about it in a second, hits that shot out of the fairway bunker. I mean, it's just it was really cool. But these are clearly 1 and 2. I've got like no qualms about either one of these.
Yeah.
The fans pretty much heavily favor. Oh, it's getting a little closer, but Open Championship, that's going to win 70% or so right now. Okay. This one I like. Most memorable shot, which
we could do this for an hour on its own, I think.
There's a lot of different ways to look at this because there are shots that are more impactful to tournaments and legacies and stuff like that, or shots that just you and I, regular humans, are incapable of hitting.
That's right. I went with like, because you could pick like 7 of those from every event, right? I went with more like what the context was around the theme of this podcast is context, I guess, but what the context was around a lot of these shots in major championships or big events. Ooh, I forgot about this one that Jacob's putting in there right now.
Also that's a great one from Jacob. And there's one in the chat that is great that we'll have to talk about.
Okay.
So where do you even want to start here? There's so many.
Let's just go back and forth. You go first, and then if I had it, I'll just say I had it and go to mine.
All right. Matt Fitzpatrick out of the fairway bunker on 18. Said it was one of the best shots he ever hit. Obviously ends up winning him a US Open.
It was insane because it felt like a moment where he could kick the tournament away, and he hit the shot of his life to win it. And that's when the pressure is just, you're like, this is a hard shot regardless. I think he actually said it wasn't that hard of a shot, which is very Phil-like, but the pressure makes it even more so. So I had that one also. I had this was kind of a combo, Rory and Morikawa in the bunker on 18 at Augusta.
I'm glad I just had Rory holding out from the bunker on 18. I forgot the Morikawa part of this.
Yeah.
Which just like when I read that in the outline, just brought me back to Augusta.
It was awesome. I went back and watched both of those shots, and Rory's was up the hill and went down, and Morikawa's was straight on and went in. And they were both, I mean, Rory shot 64. I think Morikawa finished like T4 that day. It was pretty special. I lament, I was out with Scheffler. I lament not being on 18 when that happened.
Hideki Matsuyama's 3-wood at Sony in the playoff, which was like I forget what the number was, 275 yards. He stuffs it, wins that's the shot that not even no normal human can hit, but there was a stat out there, maybe Lou Stagner had it, of shots that were hit from pros from like 270 yards and out. How many finished within 5 feet or whatever Hideki was, and his shot was basically the only one.
Yeah. It was incredible. I think that'll be a poster in normal sport too this year for sure. What do I have next? I had this one got a little buried, and I wasn't there for it. I picked Scheffler up later on in the day, but he holed out on 3 on Sunday.
This is good. I forgot about this.
When it started, it could have started like coming undone a little bit, like it did at the Tour Championship, right? But he holed out on 3 on Sunday for a birdie, and it just didn't. I mean, Rory was sort of there, but it didn't really get that close after that.
Yes, that was a massive moment. It just happened a lot earlier in the round than we usually think about these. Okay, so one from the chat, which is great, and will kind of go hand in hand with one that you have here. Mito Pereira's drive into the water on 18 at Southern Hills, which that's memorable for another reason, right?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about all the good shots, but remember he's standing on the tee box there, two up, right? 2 clear, hits it in the water, makes double, and JT JT wins in a playoff.
Yeah, that was maybe the most consequential shot of the year.
Yeah.
Like in terms of it could have changed Will Zalatoris' life. It did change JT's life. It changed, is Mito playing for LIV right now? If he wins the PGA, there's just so many different things that affected.
There is a JT shot from Southern Hills is also on your list here.
Yep. I had JT's approach on 18 in regulation. So not the playoff, but regulation. I was standing fairly close to it, and he was like screaming at it. And he was so like, I don't know that I've ever seen a golfer be that intense. Like when like he's staring down a shot. I mean, Tiger obviously, but outside of Tiger. And it landed, I went back and watched it. It landed, I don't know, 5 feet right of the hole and kind of bounced up. And he had I think he missed the putt and finished at 5 or whatever to get in the playoff, but went on to win. That shot to me was just, it was so good. Like the drive he hit that kind of rolling like cutter. But then the shot into 18 was just, it was the best. It was so awesome to see in person.
Most of the shots that we talk about are full shots or like, shots that end up going down. Cam Young putting around the road hole bunker.
Yep.
Getting up and down is, and we talked about this ad nauseum during that week. It's like when I saw his ball was there was no way he was getting up and down. Like it just wasn't happening. It's a 5. Like that's a 5 when you play from there.
Yeah.
And he skirts the bunker, rolls it up there, makes the putt. Obviously, then we know what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think about putts that often. Maybe Rahm last year at the US Open on 17 and 18, but that from Cam was, I had that on my list too. I actually think, like, when I think back on this season, if you say what's the most memorable shot of 2022 5 years from now, that's the one that I'll think of. Either that or Fitzpatrick, probably. Somebody had a great call out in the chat that said the best putt of the year was actually Harold Varner III's eagle to win the Saudi International. That was insane. I was watching that, I think, live, and it was shocking, like that it went in.
Well, it's because he was trying to cough that away, right? He had made bogey or double like a hole or two before, and that's 3-putt territory where you might not end up winning this thing, or you might not even be getting into a playoff, and he drains it and he goes nuts. It was a very exciting moment for sure.
That was that's a great call out. I don't think I had anything that you didn't have. I had Hideki at Sony. I will say, if Rory makes the putt on 17 at the road hole, the shot he hit into 17 would be up there. That shot's so hard. Like, it was filthy. And he didn't make the putt, didn't go on to win. But if he does go on to win, that would have been up there for me. And then producer Jacob, I'll let you take this, Rick, but producer Jacob's got one that I don't know how I forgot about it, but somehow we both forgot about it.
This is phenomenal. It's Jordan Spieth at Pebble Beach with basically 1 foot in the cliff. Like, this is so good. How did we forget this? Because it happened in January.
Yeah, I mean,
it was.
Yeah, Jordan Spieth just makes memories at Pebble Beach, and they're not necessarily all great. I mean, you have to love it that it just is like the entire Spieth roller coaster encompassed in like one image, which I think is what makes it great, right? That would be my nomination.
That's a good one. The shot we saw the most was Sam Ryder's ace, because we just saw that.
That was great. That was cool. Like, I love that. Colton Oast, his reaction to it was hilarious. Him and Amanda Renner were sitting there, and they freaked out. The whole thing was awesome, and it led to my Ryder Cups tweet.
That's good. I like that,
because they threw cups on the green. I think Rich Lerner took that for Golf Channel. No credit. Hate to see it.
The chat has gone. It was close for a while. We were tied, but with 42% of the vote, Cam Young getting up and down at the road hole. Then Fitz
Smith.
Right behind it.
Cam Smith.
What'd I say?
Cam Young.
Cam Young. No.
Cam Young got up and down on 18.
That was sick.
That should have been on here.
Fitzy's bunker shot 34%. Mito's drive on 18, and then Rory at Augusta 11%. I guess because finished second.
Yeah, I think Cam Smith's the right answer there. I think that's the call.
2 more to go. Player of the year, rookie of the year. Player of the year. I think you and I think there's a clear 1, 2, 3 of this.
It's Scotty, Cam, and Rory in that order. I don't. You could argue that Cam is ahead of Scotty, depending on how you feel about the Players Championship, but Scotty won 4 of the top 12 events of the year, and it would be different for me if Scotty won like the Sanderson and the Honda and the American Express. He won Bay Hill, he won Phoenix, he won Match Play, and he won the Masters. So yeah, I will listen to Cam Smith. Now you got me confused. I almost said Cam Young. I will listen to Cam Smith arguments for Player of the Year, but I think at the end of the day, I would have to go Scotty just because the stats are better overall. And I care about that stuff. And then his wins, there are more of them, and they were, I think overall, I mean, a third of the top 12 events you're the winner of, and I just don't know how you're not Player of the Year.
Yeah, and Scotty also had like a bunch of really good runner-up finishes. He made $4 million more. Although I'm not a hot take machine, but like you might not be able to win Player of the Year if you cough up a six-shot lead at the Tour Championship on Sunday.
Well, they've been doing this thing where they just give it to whoever won the FedEx Cup. We can't do that this year. Like we can't. Like we have to get away from that. We have to give it to Scotty. I agree, but on the flip side, if he coughed that up in January, we don't even care about it. It's just because it was the most recent thing.
And Rory had a great year and won the FedEx Cup, but cannot be Player of the Year with your other 2 wins being Canadian Open and CJ.
I mean, Rory said it on Sunday. He's like, Scotty will be Player of the Year. So I think the interesting part is I did this thing for Normal Sport last year, where I picked like the 5 guy, like the top 5, like the all NBA team, so to speak. I don't know who the other 2 are.
Yeah. That's the conversation I want to have. Like who's 4th? Who's 5th?
I was going through it today. I think your options are Fitzpatrick, Xander, JT, and Cantlay. And I don't know who it is. JT won a major. Fitzpatrick won a major. Xander won 3 times. And Cantlay won the BMW and had better numbers than maybe all those guys. I think the top 5 is really, really tough for me.
Zalatoris made more money than everybody else not named Scotty Scheffler and Cam Smith.
Yeah.
Had an unbelievable major season. I mean, I would go, my top 5 would be Scotty, Cam, Rory, Xander's and Zalatoris. That would be my 5.
Okay, so Zalatoris over JT, Fitzpatrick, and Cantlay.
Yeah, I don't love it, but that's the body of the Will Zalatoris body of work with the victory, and getting unlucky at the end of the year to not. I mean, there's a really good chance if Zalatoris stays healthy, he wins the FedEx Cup, right?
Yeah.
And I know I can't give him credit for that, but I'm not gonna knock him for it either.
Yeah, he was so good in the majors too. That's interesting. I will throw him in certainly for consideration. I don't know where I'm going to land on that. I think I'm going to just agonize over who to put in the 5 there, because you can make a really good argument for all of them.
My quick count, I think there's 9 guys that won multiple times, which is crazy. Scotty.
Let me see if I can name them.
You could definitely gotten those 2.
Scotty, I didn't hear what you said. Sam Burns.
Okay, so you're at Scotty and Sam Burns.
Rory.
Correct.
Xander.
Hold on, I lost you after Rory. Who's after Rory?
Xander.
4.
Are you counting team events?
I'm counting PGA Tour events.
Cantlay. So there's 4 more. There's 4 more.
Yeah.
It was almost Big Sep. Big Sep. Almost, Finau. I'm looking at the chat. That's cheating. Finau's in there. It's got to be. Did I say Cam? Cam Smith.
No, you did not. Okay, so you've got how many? You have 2 more.
And
oh, I knew. Okay, yeah, 2 more.
It has to be like a. Spieth only won once.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is one of them a top 10 player? Like, should I get it?
You should get both of these. You do.
Hold on. I don't want to be embarrassed here. I'm not looking at the chat. It's got to be somebody named Cameron.
They came earlier in the year.
Hudson Swafford won the American Express. Sepp won the Honda. Tom Hoagie won Pebble. That was a weird stretch, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Who won Sony? Hideki won twice.
Hideki, Sony, and Zozo.
Yeah.
One more.
And who won Scotty won match play. JJ Spawn won the Texas Open. I said Burns. KH Lee won the Byron Nelson again, didn't he?
Yeah, he defended.
Taylor Gooch won. I don't know. Just give it to me.
Max Homa.
Ah,
he won the
He won the first event.
He's our next defending champion. There was a couple of comments in the chat about Victor. Technically, Victor has 1 win. Mayakoba, the Hero World Challenge, not an official win.
We have to figure something out with the official wins, like the Tour Championship thing. The Hero is harder to win than like the American Express, and yet we give guys get into the Masters because they won the whole thing is like so weird.
Rookie of the year. We probably should have started with this one because this is like the biggest layup in out of all of them. It's Cam Young by a mile.
Yeah, and then Sahith.
Yeah, who overtook Davis Riley, I think, in like the second half. Davis Riley was making a case. Davis Riley had a 6 or 8 week stretch from Zurich to whatever, where he was making a very strong case for Rookie of the Year, but kind of faltered. Now, Tom Kim was the only one who got a win, I think. Oh, no, that's not true because
no,
I have it.
It was
Chad Ramey.
Chad Ramey.
Ramey won. Tom Kim won. Yeah, those were the only 2 rookies that had wins. But Tom Kim only had 11 starts. This is like, where do you rank? He made 10 of 11 cuts. He had 3 and a win.
I can't do Tom Kim because he didn't really participate in the majors, and that just matters so much to me. So I still would go. I would go Cam. I would go Sahith second. Although Sahith had 5 top 10s and 32 starts, and Tom Kim had 3 and 11 starts. You could talk me into Tom Kim being second.
I think I could be too.
So I might go Cam, Tom Kim, and then Sahith.
Yeah.
Davis Riley, he lost to Burns at Valspar.
Correct. And then if Mito wins the PGA Championship, this is obviously a different conversation.
Yeah.
Those are the big 5: Young, Sahith, Davis Riley, Tom Kim, Mito Pereira. Then you get to like Chad Ramey, who's the only one, or one of only 2 actually won. Pendrith only had a couple of starts, or actually no, he had a bunch and then he got hurt for a while. Taylor Moore, Alex Smalley, Aaron Rye. Those are like your top 10-ish.
Yeah.
Rookies.
Brandon Wu, 4 top 10s.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
I think we did it.
Hour and a half. Wow.
Tomorrow, we've got the International President's Cup captain, Trevor Immelman. What are we going to ask him?
I don't know. I saw him at Augusta this year, and I was sitting by the clubhouse, and he's like, "Why do you not ever give me any good lines to say on air?" And I'm like, "Well, you don't pay me to be your guy to feed you lines, so maybe that's what he'll ask for tomorrow when he comes on. We can ask him if Mark has any eligibility to play in the President's Cup."
Actually, yeah. I mean, here's just a little teaser for tomorrow. So I'm looking at the international team standings. Cam Smith number 1, Joaquin Neiman number 4. So that's obviously not happening. So now he's gonna have to get down to like the Ryan Foxes, Mackenzie Hugheses of the world. Honor Bond was 15th.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the international team is you'll still know the names, I think, that are on there, unless he goes like really deep with some unproven young guys, right? Like Mackenzie Hughes is a name that people know. It's just not going to be, it's going to be a tough scene at Quail Hollow.
Get me Cam Davis on that team.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cam Davis, and we'll figure it out along the way.
Cam Davis, you can at least like roll out against a Xander and feel like there's a chance, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be a good combo.
All right. That's coming tomorrow. And I think we're also putting something in the can for tomorrow, but we'll see how that goes. All right. Big thanks to Bruce Jacob, all the hard work behind the scenes. Kyle Porter available on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.